Reflections on national issues. Our country faces a multitude of challenges across various sectors despite having a solid political system, well meaning politicians, and competent institutions such as the bureaucracy, police, and judiciary. Historically, we have upheld high standards, but in recent times these have declined even though our values still remain stronger than those of many other nations. While the degradation of values is a global phenomena, it is particularly pronounced in India due to the past high standards rooted in our cultural heritage. The primary cause of this decline is the overpopulation and rapid population growth we are experiencing, which results in excessive unemployment and shortage of opportunities. The degradation of values impact every area of our country's functioning, most significantly two vital public systems, the electoral system and judiciary being the two most affected. Urgent reforms in these areas are not just necessary but inevitable and should be implemented without delay. Restoring traditional values will have a profound impact not only on our moral fabric but also in driving progress in material aspects of society. The ideas presented here are just a few that have come to my mind as a layperson. Surely, experts and various committees have put forward additional suggestions that should be taken into account and acted upon promptly. The population time bomb. As of February 8, 2025, India's population is approximately 1.46 billion with a population density of about 475 individuals per square kilometer and a population growth rate of 0.81%. This high density has led to significant shortages in essential resources such as food, water, shelter, and education facilities. Additionally, environmental degradation and the erosion of traditional values are adversely affecting the nation. In the early 20th century, rapid population growth was largely attributed to religious beliefs and traditions. However, widespread family planning initiatives have successfully reduced growth rates in many communities. Despite this, certain groups continue to experience higher fertility rates, influenced by religious doctrines and dogmas and external funding from affluent foreign nations promoting specific ideologies. The proliferations of madrasas and churches serves as evidence of this trend. Migration from neighboring countries has further exacerbated India's population challenges. The restoration of traditional values is essential to address these issues and promote national well-being. India possesses a demographic advantage with a median age significantly lower than the global average and that of China. To capitalize on this demographic dividend, it is crucial to invest in skill development, enhance environmental health, and effectively channel the talents of the youth. The rapid population growth observed between 1951 and 1991 is projected to decelerate over the next 2 decades, with growth rates expected to fall below 5% between 2031 and 2041, aligning with trends in mature economies like Germany and France. This shift is anticipated to benefit the economy through increased savings. We have already seen a dramatic fall in rate of population growth from 1.3% in 2013 to 0.81% in 2023. However, in the coming years, the growing population will place pressure on per capita GDP, necessitate new investments, and challenge labor productivity and the sustainable use of natural resources in the agrarian sector, among other social issues. This situation may lead to low saving rates and widespread unemployment. The escalating population growth is negatively impacting demographic changes, resulting in various forms of social unrest, including shifting loyalties to other countries, participation in terrorist activities, and anti-national sentiments. Governments have been compelled to allocate substantial public funds over the past few decades to address these negative activities, funds that could have been more effectively utilized for national development and youth employment. This phenomena requires study and analysis, with vigorous action from governments to implement and enforce appropriate administrative measures. Non-governmental organizations, NGOs, also have a vital role to play in this endeavor. Only through concerted efforts can population growth and its associated national challenges be mitigated. Over the next 30 years, reducing population growth is imperative to achieve a desired decrease in birth rates and alleviate the overpopulation crisis and its related social issues. This, in turn, will enhance our values and contribute to a happier and more prosperous India. Electoral reforms. The battle for true representation. India, the world's largest democracy, has withstood the tempests of diversity, regional, cultural, social, linguistic, and religious. It has endured the pressures of time, its democratic roots embedded deep within the national psyche. As the world's most robust democracy, India's strength comes from the amalgamation of various religions and cultures. It has withstood the relentless test of time. The idea of democracy has taken firm root in the Indian psyche, embedded deep within its political consciousness. When independence was achieved, the nation adopted the Westminster model of its former colonial rulers, Britain. It was a system well suited to the British, streamlined, orderly, and efficient within their relatively homogeneous society. But in India, the scale was vastly different. The landmass, the population, the sheer complexity of religious and linguistic diversity, these factors created a chasm that are uncommon in Britain. Social stratification, economic disparity, and educational inequities only widened that gap further. While the Westminster model fostered democratic governance, it faltered in its ability to ensure fair representation. The first past the post system operates on a simple premise. The candidate who secures the highest number of votes, however marginal the lead, is declared the winner. This, in practice, means that most victorious candidates are elected with only 15 to 20% of the total votes cast, with rare exceptions crossing the 40% mark. Even more troubling is the fact that voter turnout itself hovers around 65 to 70%, leaving a substantial segment of about 30 to 35% of the electorate effectively unrepresented. The absence of a mechanism to account for uncast votes is a glaring flaw in the system. At times, the combined sum of votes not cast and those marked as negative votes vastly outnumber the votes secured by the declared winner. The result, a distorted representation of the people's will. It is the first flip side of our electoral system. A choice for the disillusioned voter. Among the electorate exists another category, those who vote reluctantly, dissatisfied with all available candidates. The none of the above nota option was introduced as an outlet for such voters, granting them the right to reject every name on the ballot. It is a protest vote, a statement against the state of politics and the caliber of candidates. Political parties resisted the inclusion of nota for years, fully aware that it would make elections far more difficult for them to manipulate. Yet, despite its introduction, the percentage of votes cast as nota remains unclear. What is evident, however, is the compound effect of nota and abstentions on the democratic process. In some constituencies, candidates have won with wafer-thin majorities, sometimes as little as 0.1% of the votes polled. The 1994 parliamentary elections saw an extreme case where a candidate secured victory by a mere 19 votes. To put this into perspective, a parliamentary constituency typically has an electorate of about 1.1 million, with voter turnout averaging 65%. A 19-vote margin in such a vast electorate is an anomaly, one that underscores the fragility of the system. The rise of the unworthy. These irregularities have left cracks in the democratic framework, cracks that have been exploited by an increasing number of criminal and unscrupulous elements. Political parties, regardless of ideology, are often powerless to deny tickets to such individuals, for they command considerable resources, money, muscle, an array of illicit influence, and above all, high potential of winnability. Their presence within political structures has surged, spreading through parliament, state assemblies, municipal corporations, leave alone local governing bodies like Jilla Parishads and Panchayats. This tide must be stemmed. No single leader, no matter how well intentioned, or proactive or popular, can reverse this course alone. Criteria for candidacy. Electoral reforms must aim at ensuring genuine representation. This can only be achieved by re-evaluating the criteria for candidacy and the process of election itself. A suitable system should be evolved to ensure proper representation. An elected candidate should qualify all of the following criteria, which can be fine-tuned. Obtain a minimum majority of 3% more than the closest candidate. Secure at least 30% of the total electorate votes. Obtain at least 1% more than negative votes, that is, votes not polled plus nota votes. A candidate meeting these criteria alone should be declared elected. This would ensure that the elected candidate is truly representative of the constituency electorate. In many constituencies, candidates may fail to meet such criteria in the first count. In such cases, a second election should be conducted, eliminating those who secured less than 15% of the votes cast in the first round. Fresh independent candidates should be allowed to enter the fray. The same criteria must apply to the second round of election. With fewer candidates in running, in the second elections, the counting will be decisive, reducing the votes of dummy candidates used for diverting votes between the remaining contestants. To mitigate costs, an alternative approach would be to include a second polling booth during the first election itself, where voters could cast their second preference. However, this method is a bit complicated. A safeguard against this would be to segregate first round casted votes of qualified candidates and disregard it for second preference. In constituencies where no candidate secures a victory even after a second round, votes should be aggregated by party and vacant seats allocated proportionally. This ensures that elected representatives hold a mandate from at least 30% of the electorate as opposed to meager current 15 to 18%. Eliminating backdoor entry. Even after a second round of voting, some constituencies may remain unrepresented. In such cases, seats should be filled by contesting candidates from the second round based on a weighted system, 70% weightage given to votes polled for the candidate directly in the constituency and 30% to the overall party performance. This prevents smaller constituencies from being ignored and eliminates backdoor entries into governance. Candidates who lose by a margin of 10% or more compared to the winning candidate should forfeit their security deposits. However, candidates who lose by less than 10% should be eligible for a refund of their deposit. This measure could discourage proxy candidates who may be more concerned about their public image than the deposit itself. Political parties sometimes field independent candidates to split votes and weaken rival contenders, as seen in several recent elections. This tactic often leads to a narrow loss for the potential winners. While the proxy candidate loses anyway, the sponsoring party also risks damaging its public credibility, especially if their own candidate loses as well. This suggestion focuses solely on the percentage of votes needed to secure a refund. It does not address the quality, integrity, or authenticity of the candidates, which is the main challenge of democratic politics. However, parties lean towards better candidates to attract neutral voters. Despite this, there are many to manipulate and exploit the loopholes and thrive. The need of the hour is to address the systematic weakness with strong reforms. The percentages mentioned are suggestive and can be fine-tuned. Judicial reforms. India has been fortunate to have a distinguished judicial system for centuries. Our legal tradition has balanced nyaya, justice in its technical form, and dharma, a higher moral justice based on social fairness, equity, and justice for the underprivileged. Over time, however, with the influx of new cultures and ideas, the focus has gradually shifted towards technicalities, with the nyaya gaining precedence over dharma, slowly fading with growing change of societal values. This shift is evident from discussions across various platforms, social, political, and professional, and has been extensively covered in the mainstream media. Despite India's proud legacy of bold, fearless, and socially responsible judgments, the current judicial system is plagued with significant issues, making reforms urgently necessary. The judiciary has long been revered as the protector of the Indian Constitution, safeguarding it against misuse. It is one of the three pillars of the Constitution, alongside the executive and legislature. Judiciary is primarily responsible to uphold fundamental rights and directive principles enunciated in the Constitution, even against the abuses of legislature and executive. However, the judiciary faces increasing misuse from those who can afford the cost and the time it demands, with the executive and certain parts of the legislature being the primary abusers of this system, aided by active connivance of legal practitioners. The resources necessary for the operation of courts, right from the magistrate level to the Supreme Court, are controlled by the other two branches of the government. The most significant challenges lie in inadequate manpower and infrastructure. The number of judges is insufficient to handle the routine cases, leave alone the mounting backlogs, leading to substantial accumulation of pending cases. Provision of adequate staff is primarily the responsibility of the government for better upkeep of law and order. Indeed, in about 75% of cases, government is involved. Then why is the government hesitating and holding back the shortages in judiciary? $1 million question. Is it due to expected fear of losing the cases and faces? But then governments belong to different political parties. It should be a treasure of opportunity for all the parties. It is an unfathomable jigsaw puzzle. Even non-judicial staff is in short supply. Lack of proper accommodations further hampers recruitment. Former Chief Justice of India, Justice Deepak Mishra, made an impassioned plea to the government to address these issues to prevent further weakening of the judiciary. The third pillar of Constitution. A weakened judiciary opens the door to maladministration, unconstitutional governance, and autocratic rule, threatening the very foundation of the nation's democratic structure. An introspective examination within the judiciary is critical to improving its performance and public perception. Internal reforms are a logical starting point, focusing on judicial administration and the enforcement of a strict code of conduct. These reforms would require minimal expenditure but could still instill a high level of self-discipline. All the judges have their roots in the legal fraternity. Judges are not isolated from the legal community. They often have close ties with colleagues, relatives, and friends within the same network. Lawyers, as ex-colleagues or seniors, can exert subtle and unwritten influence on judges. Reports of corruption in non-judicial sectors are rampant, often surviving with the tacit support of the parent department. Judges, like all humans, cannot live in total isolation. Lawyers sometimes form pressure groups to influence decisions. In extreme cases, there have been boycotts of courts by lawyers aimed at pressuring judges, which impact their psyche and the overall judicial process. Lawyers are ethically obligated to present the facts of a case honestly and clearly to ensure help judiciary to serve justice. However, in practice, many lawyers prioritize their allegiance to their clients, sometimes misrepresenting facts or intentionally confusing and prolonging the cases. Appropriate measures should be initiated to curb the attitude, to expedite closing the cases and improve the quality of legal proceeding. There are also reports of lawyers acting as intermediaries to secure bails or adjournments, contributing to delay in justice. Delayed justice has immense potential to breed corruption. Judicial reforms needed. Excessive delays and case backlogs. Approximately 4.23 crore cases are pending, including 63,000 cases in the Supreme Court alone. 140 cases have been pending for more than 60 years. Between 10 to 30 million cases have been pending for 10 to 30 years. Accessibility and affordability of justice. Justice is often complex, costly, time-consuming and largely inaccessible to the public. Steps must be taken to make it more accessible and simple. Advocate ethics and social responsibility. Many advocates prioritize commercial interests over their professional oath and social responsibility. A renewed emphasis on enforcing ethical behavior and professional conduct is not mere necessity, but inescapable and unavoidable in present times. Immediate actions required. Accountability and efficiency in the judiciary. Speedy justice, limit adjournments. Set time limits for the disposal of cases, including strict deadlines for filing counter-arguments. encourage out-of-the-box thinking to establish special courts for fast disposal of cases such as Lok Adalats, arbitration. Help operate the newly established special courts to the meant purpose ideally. Lawyers' social responsibility. Advocates should guide clients responsibly, ensuring that they help client navigate the legal process and avail themselves of proper services. They should collect as per guidelines set strictly. Use of technology. Implement technology to streamline communication, reduce unnecessary expenditures, and make the judicial process more efficient. Segregating cases. Cases should be prioritized based on their severity and other factors, such as the duration of pendency, the number of adjournments, and above all, the client's condition. Exploring the implementation of recommendations from various law commissions. Most of the necessary reforms are internal to the judiciary and require self-discipline and adherence to an effective code of conduct. These changes are vital for the health of the judiciary and the nation's political and legal integrity. Arbitration, a way forward. The rising tide of litigation in India is a growing spectre, looming over both the government and the judiciary. Court dockets are overflowing, weighed down by an ever-mounting backlog of cases. Successive administrations have recognized the need for intervention, leading to the introduction of mechanisms designed to alleviate this strain. Among them, the Lok Adalat, a people's court, has emerged as a beacon of expediency, settling thousands of disputes in a single day. Some judges, driven by the relentless pressures of pending cases, have managed to clear hundreds, even thousands in a single sitting. Such efficiency, commendable though it is, remains an exception rather than the norm. Arbitration is an out-of-the-box idea for speedy disposal of special cases. If arbitration could replicate even a fraction of success like the court, the impact on India's judicial landscape would be profound. The Indian Arbitration Act of 1996 was conceived as a remedy, a structured alternative to the glacial pace of conventional litigation. Its purpose was clear: to provide a parallel avenue for resolving disputes efficiently and professionally, thus relieving the courts of their oppressive burden. Arbitration courts, by design, are intended to function with singular focus, their mandate being the swift and impartial resolution of conflicts. But the greatest challenge is not procedural, it is psychological. Litigants, steeped in the culture of delaying tactics and prolonged legal skirmishes, must be dissuaded from exploiting the very system meant to deliver justice. Arbitration offers a solution, yet its effectiveness depends on the integrity and competence of those who administer it. Recognizing its potential, both central and state governments have mandated the inclusion of arbitration clauses in all major contracts. The benefits are evident. Arbitration focuses specifically and independently on specific issue, highlighting the issue as primary and specific for the arbitration court. Further, it allows disputing parties to determine the location and timing of proceedings, eliminating unnecessary delays. Arbitrators appointed by the Chief Justice of the relevant High Court or, in significant matters, the Chief Justice of India, serve as the keystones of this system. Each disputing party is granted the right to select its own arbitrator, ensuring balance and impartiality. Furthermore, professional representatives, often experts in specialized fields such as construction and insurance, are permitted to argue cases, thereby infusing arbitration with technical expertise. Yet, for all its virtues, arbitration has not been immune to inefficiencies. Costs have risen, delays have crept in, and the process increasingly resembles the very judicial apparatus it was meant to circumvent. The cause: many arbitrators are retired judges, seasoned in the labyrinthine procedures of the courts, and conditioned to a pace that is anything but expeditious. Their habitual reliance and inclination on the familiar rituals of litigation has transformed arbitration into a shadow justice rather than a dynamic, alternative mechanism for dispute resolution. The High Courts and appointed arbitrators should direct the proceedings in conformity to the founding principles of arbitration to expedite clearance of the specific cases. Arbitration should not be considered and converted as job opportunities to fellow legal fraternity. Over time, it is disastrous to the very mother system. But there is a way forward. The model of swifter justice already exists within India's own institutions. The military court-martial. The military system of justice is built for specific cases with speed and precision, yet it does not compromise on fairness. A military tribunal, composed of officers, is advised by a legal expert known as the judge advocate. This expert ensures that proceedings adhere to legal principles, but the ultimate decision rests with the officers, professionals who understand the nuances of military operations. The same principle can be applied to arbitration. Arbitration courts should integrate domain-specific experts as primary decision makers with legal specialists providing advisory roles. Construction disputes should be decided by engineers, electrical cases by electrical experts, and insurance disputes by seasoned professionals from the insurance sector. India possesses a deep reservoir of competent professionals who, if deployed correctly, could breathe new life into arbitration. The role of judiciary should be confined to legal oversight, ensuring that procedures are followed and final awards are legally binding. To expedite proceedings, arbitration case details should be made publicly accessible online, introducing a layer of transparency that would deter unnecessary delays. Additionally, professional bodies like ICADR and Nalsar University should take the lead in training industry experts, equipping them with the skills to function as effective arbitrators. The objective should be clear. Arbitration must not become an extension of the courtroom, but a distinct and independent entity driven by pragmatism and efficiency. By shifting arbitration towards a specialist-driven model, the process can be accelerated, unlocking funds trapped in prolonged disputes, facilitating project completion, and stimulating employment. The impact would be national in scope, enhancing economic activity and reinforcing trust in India's ability to deliver justice not in years but in weeks. It is time for arbitration to break free from the inertia of the courtroom and step into its true role.